the authors. We have a special interview today. We're at San Diego ACEP 2018, where we are interviewing Dr. Brian Zink. Brian, thank you for coming on my show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
And we have this book we're talking about.
Yes,
Hold the camera,
yes.
book up for the camera. Anyone, anything, anytime. And this book is all about the history of emergency medicine. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's second edition. So, and updated from a previous edition I did that was published in 2005, 2006.
This is updated, and I was reading through it, and there are just tons of interviews, biographies about the individuals who were the foundations of emergency medicine.
Yeah, the way I did it back then was to set out to interview the founders of the field, so those who were very influential in developing emergency medicine, and some of those who were opposed to developing the field. And I did about 50 oral history type interviews with an old Sony analog recorder.
Yeah, those were the days. Yeah.
And I went around the country. I went from Nova Scotia to Southern California, and from state of Washington to Washington, D.C., to Naples, Florida, and all over interviewing people. And that was a great odyssey, and one of the best things I've ever done. And when I completed the interviews, I put it all together. I did a lot of research on just through the digging through the archives of the American College of Emergency Physicians, American Board of Emergency Medicine, Society for Academic Emergency Medicine. Read a lot of letters, correspondence, and that type of thing. So it was about a three-year project. 3 years.
3 years.
To do it originally, and then this one is updated with additional interviews of influential people in the field. Some things that people had sent me from historical information from when they read the previous book, and then just taking it up about another 10 to 15 years in our history, because we have a young history starting in the 1950s, really. And last book ended about 1995, so I updated it about to the time of the Affordable Care Act.
Which was what year?
2010.
So this is an amazing book. I love the pictures, and I love the whole history sense. And what's interesting, I think one of the things that you might think something like this might be a little dry, but there's a lot of drama in it, especially talking about, I mean, you would think ERs are dramatic, but I was thinking about the politics involved, how the AMA was really opposed to letting emergency medicine have their own specialty. What was that all about?
Yeah, so at the time that emergency medicine was trying to develop, there was a sense in this country that there were too many specialists, too many people doing training to be specialty physicians, and that primary care was really inadequate. There weren't enough primary care physicians. So at the time we were pushing forward in the late 1970s to become a new specialty, the sense was that we don't need more specialists. That was countered by the fact that the increase in emergency department visits was just mushrooming every year, and someone needed to take care of these people. And previously, those who were taking care of these people were either residents, interns, or untrained people. So there was a social imperative that we needed to have education to train people in emergency medicine, and that there should be a specialty board to certify those people.
So, Brian, we were just talking about how it was so hard for ACEP to be certified. You talked about the general mood of the country wanting to have primary care doctors, but there was another motivation going on from the doctor's side. What was that about?
Well, if you look at other specialties, at the time, if you were in a hospital or an academic medical center, there's a finite piece of the pie, or finite pie, and if you're going to admit a new department, a new residency or whatever into your mix, the resources are going to be distributed by one share less. And so there was a lot of just kind of basic resistance due to resource allocation. And then there were some people who just philosophically felt that emergency medicine was not a new legitimate field, that it was so broad that how could anyone have mastery of this entire field. And it took a lot of convincing that there was this science of emergency medicine where you were focused on decompensation of patients, you were focused on that period of time when someone was in crisis, and that it was your job as an emergency physician to move that person out of crisis into a more stable state. And that might have been cardiac crisis, it could be mental health crisis, it could be diabetes, it could be drug use, lots of different things. and it was possible to learn how to do that across the spectrum, like the old GPs used to do, but focusing on the emergency aspects, and then also relating to EMS care, ambulance services, pre-hospital care, mass casualty, disaster care, that all those things could be encompassed in this new field, and we had to convince everyone that that was going to be legitimate. And the people of the country had already convinced everyone that that was where they wanted to get a lot of their care when they were sick and ill acutely, because they were voting with their feet to come to our emergency departments by the millions.
And it was so true, and of course time has proven how right that attitude was. But I remember when I started off, I'm an ER doctor for 40 years myself, and I remember the ERs, they were staffed by the family docs, and
Right.
it's like people, and it was fine, they did an adequate job for the time, but they didn't want to do it.
Right.
They wanted to have their practice and go to bed at night and not have to be up all night taking calls.
Yeah, I think the 24/7, 365 nature of the field necessitated that some people would choose to do this full time, and were willing to work those weekends and nights as part of the commitment to their specialty.
Yeah, and the special training is really emphasized in your book. And I think one of the things that's really interesting in emergency medicine, we were one of the first specialties. Tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I remember we were one of the first specialties that required recertification on a regular basis.
Yeah, both the nature of the exam, when the exam was developed in the late 1970s, was to have it be a very scientifically developed exam. It was called criterion referenced. It had both an oral, case-based test along with a written test, and it was really cutting edge. It was developed at Michigan State University by their education department, along with the early ABEM pioneers, and they wanted an exam that was going to be, state of the art, one of the best exams.
It was rigorous.
Right.
There was a little thing in our museum over there that says that of all the people who took the first exam, 64% failed, including 2 of the people on the board.
Exactly.
A little too rigorous.
It was a challenging exam, to start.
And then not only was it the written exam, then you had to go through oral exam too.
Right, exactly. And that was different than all the other specialties at the time.
So these people, these pioneers, so many of them are dead now, huh?
Yeah, so of those I interviewed, of that original 50, over a quarter of them have since died. So I caught them at the time, and I was cognizant of the fact at the time that we needed to have there was a time window, because many of these people were in their 80s at the time, late 70s or 80s, and almost all the notable founders of the field have since died.
Wow, that's really something. I remember I was in. What year did you become board certified?
I was board certified in 1989, my first time.
I was grandfathered in. I did
Yeah.
family practice. I've been working ERs for several years, so I was graduate. So
Right.
my board certification is 82.
So you were an early.
I was an early guy, yeah.
Right.
And a lot of the guys in those days. And I didn't have full time. I love it.
Yeah.
It still just draws to my heart all the excitement of the emergency room and the
Right.
sense of we can really be right there and do things. And the things about one of the aspects of that was the training that we were given and still are. There's a program set up by the traumas, advanced trauma life support, by the cardiac people, by advanced cardiac life support, by the pediatrics, advanced pediatric life support, and ER doctors keep certified in all those fields. So we're available, we're ready for like you say, anyone, anything, anytime you come to the ER, we're going to be ready for you.
Although it's interesting, no one ever gets this right. When I'm introduced for my book, people say, anyhow, anywhere, they don't quite ever get it right. I thought this was the most catchy title ever, but it's kind of funny how most people don't get it right when they introduce me.
Did you make up that phrase?
I did make up that phrase, yeah, and it's caught on, and so I'm happy to see that. But no, it was a labor of love, and second edition, it was great to do, just to refresh some things. And I'm not sure if I'll do a third edition or might be up to someone else in 10 or 15 years, but it was a really fun thing to do. The best thing I've ever done in my career in terms of contributing to the field. So
yeah, it is definitely memorable. That's what I feel about any books.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, I have a wide selection of books, but it feels like a legacy. You've done something that's going to live on. We do great things as ER docs. We save lives, we help people get better, we do great things, but then they're gone.
Right.
And this type of thing will be passed on for generations. It's a wonderful book.
Right.
Show us some of your book. I mean, this book, I didn't have enough time to read the whole thing, but I just love this thing.
Yeah, so the book this edition, we intentionally created a lot more imagery, a lot more images, a lot more pull quotes and sidebars, and it's
the photographs of all the people.
And the editor Rachel Donahue did a great job of accessing photos, and it's color now. The previous book read like a little textbook. It was very dense, very small print. So this book is much more readable.
Yeah, you have pictures from the 50s, from the 60s, and 70s, the 80s, the whole timeline, and the political activities going on at the time too. The drug things and the protests and the Kent State and all that.
Yeah, that all factored into the development of the field. I'm very happy and proud to have a foreword of the book by Steve Stack, who was the first emergency physician to be the president of the AMA in 2015-16, and the youngest ever AMA president. And so having Steve write the foreword was very meaningful for us as well.
Yeah, I read his foreword. That was really very moving and aggressive. In Mississippi, where we're from, we have had 2 emergency medicine physicians be president of the state society.
Right.
And I was president of our coastal regional society, and now I'm president of the state ACEP. So
right.
Yeah,
the emergency medicine is conducive to having people rise up to leadership positions, not just in our EM field, but in medicine in general, and sometimes, as we've seen, in state legislatures and even Congress and beyond. So.
That is good. Where can somebody get your book?
So it's through the American College of Emergency Physicians bookstore, which is online, so it can be ordered there. So acep.org.
AACEP.org.
Right.
And then go to the bookstore tab.
Yeah.
Exactly. This book is really worthwhile having. I mean, it's a lovely coffee book, but it's a history book. It's a history of how medicine has progressed through the past 60 years, intertwined with all the factors going on, and it's got drama, and the characters are so alive. Well, a lot of them are dead, but some are still alive.
Yeah. Well, the whole goal was to keep some of their words and thoughts alive in the book, and they were a interesting group. They were very charismatic. They had amazing perseverance as they developed the field, and some of their stories are really remarkable.
And I just want to point out also about Dr. Zink's. Received numerous awards and honors: the Hal Jane Academic Excellence Award, John Marks Leadership Award, the Outstanding Contribution Education Award from ACEP, Distinguished Service Award. This is just amazing. This fella is amazing, and his writing is fluid and so readable. I highly recommend this book, and we appreciate you coming on our show.
Thank you very much, Bill. It was really great seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And stay tuned, and we'll be back with other episodes to meet the author here or on our YouTube channel.